And I think we are live. So, hey guys, welcome. It's the TED Show on the home team page. I am super excited to have these amazing attorneys, all friends of mine. Well, I just met Serge, but everybody else is a friend. So Serge, of course, is a friend now. Everybody's been asking me legal questions. What's going on in the legal system, Ted? What's happening with probate or real estate or family law, pretty much business law, anything. And I said, you know what? That is a great question that I don't have the answer to, but I do have a lot of amazing friends, talented attorney friends who can answer those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share this really fast live, and then we're good to go. All right. So welcome. Happy Monday.
Thank you.
All right, so what I'd love for you guys to do is, and I can see you Brady Bunch style, so I don't know if you can see me that way or not. Yeah. There's somebody else trying to get in. Are we waiting for a Christina?
No.
No? Okay.
Nope.
So I'm just going to go Brady Bunch style. If you can just tell me who you are and then what area of law that you practice, and then I'll start asking the general questions once we're finished. Armando, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Ted. I'm Armando Payas, and I practice with the law firm of Payas, Payas, and Payas, or Payas, Payas, and Payas, as we tell the insurance companies. So I do personal injury, medical malpractice, plaintiff's work. So we're on the side of the injured party.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brother Payas. We are fraternity brothers, actually. I've known Armando for a very long time. Andrea Morgan, how about you? Welcome.
Hi, Ted. I'm Andrea Morgan. I'm the owner and president of Morgan Divorce Law Firm. And I've been practicing for, it seems like since the dark ages. But I opened my office here in Central Florida in 2014.
Wonderful. That's right. You're a Key West girl, right?
Yes.
Key West. I do pay attention occasionally. I'm not stalking anybody. I just happen to know that. Serge, you're new to the family, so welcome.
Yes, I am. Thank you. So I'm based out of New York, do mostly real estate and business law, pretty much everything transactional at this point.
All right, thank you. Justin Clark.
Hey, Ted.
Hey, buddy.
Mostly debt stuff for us at my firm, foreclosure, bankruptcy, IRS problems, that sort of thing. Handled, like 20,000 foreclosure cases back in the day. Everyone's coming up to me now saying, oh, you're going to get so busy again. I don't really take any joy out of, a bunch of people struggling financially, but I guess at least they know that we're here to help when the proverbial, hits the fan here pretty soon, or maybe already has. I don't know.
Wonderful. All right. How about you, Amir?
Hey, Ted, Amir Ladan. I've been practicing law here in Orlando since '98. Former prosecutor out of the state attorney's office for 3 years. Good friends with Carlos Payas, Armando's brother and partner, who I've known for about 23 years. And we do criminal defense, DUI, injunctions, and infractions. So that's what we do.
Welcome. All right. Last but not least, Lorena.
Hi.
How are you?
Lorena. Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. Lorena Cardama. I am the founder of the Cardama Law Firm. I practice primarily family law. I've been doing it for a little bit over a decade now, which makes me feel old.
And you have a very large family.
I do have a very large family. I have 6 children, 2 sets of twins. So if anybody knows family, it's me.
All right. Well, I want to start. So I think let me give you the general questions, and then I'll just kind of start going around the group. And if you want to pop in, I would expect nothing less than for you guys to pop in if it's your topic. One of the questions, we had a ton of questions before we went live. People have been messaging me since this morning, asking. And one of the number one questions is about foreclosures. I have to say, Justin. So I'm going to start with you. The foreclosure, people are afraid of the forbearance versus, the lingo, I don't, but they're all concerned about what are they supposed to do, what's happening, how is that going to impact them? And so I think that would be a great place to start.
So number one, I don't see a mass foreclosure issue like we had in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. I do see the foreclosures with an uptick. There's no doubt about it. I don't see it going nearly as crazy as it did back in the day, though, because if you think about it, the house prices right now are really at about 2006 prices now, 14 years later. So while I think the values of our houses in 06 were clearly artificially inflated. I think they're actually about where they need to be. So I don't see a huge crash like we saw back then, but clearly we're going to have a significant amount of foreclosures because people are not going to be able to pay their mortgage. Now, none of us have ever seen an issue like this in our lifetime, I don't think, with a global pandemic. So I think that the banks are going to feel a lot more pressure to work with the borrowers to give them 90, 120 days worth of relief. But here's the issue, and we see an uptick in foreclosure every time we have a hurricane come through, because the banks will call you and say, oh, don't worry, take 90 days off and you don't have to pay us for 90 days. Then after 90 days, they say, okay, pay us the entire 90 days right now. And people said, well, I didn't save the money during those 90 days. I used it to survive. And then that's what leads to an uptick in foreclosure. So that's the real question is when you talk to your lender, you have to say, okay, am I getting 3 months off here and then I've got to pay all 90 days at once after 3 months? Or does this truly mean a forbearance where I'll just start making the payment again after 90 days? That's the real key.
It's a big difference in the lingo too. And so it's really important that you know what you're talking about. And a lot of consumers don't know what they're talking about. It's a hard thing to maneuver. You guys are all trained in this, and we crazy people out here in the consumer world, we don't know. And so it's scary. It's scary sometimes to even think about retaining a lawyer. And so that's also what I got some on family. And I want to talk to Andrea and Lorena. So I had a few people say, I'm in the middle of a divorce proceeding. How is that going to impact me as far as what's going on with the division of assets? And one of them has a house that they're currently trying to sell, and it just got taken off the market. I don't know the whole things, but what's happening in the family law? I'll start with you, Andrea. What's going on there?
Well, fortunately, it's business as usual. I have this, and I'm sure I know you guys do too, the Edict of Justice Canada about what is going to be rescheduled and what type of hearings are going to be put on hold temporarily and what are not. So I was very happy to be able to inform my clients that there was nothing about the situation that was going to halt or slow down their court process, particularly if they are in kind of an uncontested mode, that being they're either looking to resolve their divorce through mediation, cooperative divorce, collaborative divorce. All these things, thank goodness, can be done remotely. I do want to give a little plug and hats off to Seminole County, because even before this happened, they were already divorcing people without the necessity of a final hearing. So there was never any court hearings to begin with in Seminole. Not such the case in Orange. There's like a cattle call, what they call an uncon hearing day, where you kind of, stand in line like Disney World style and wait for your case to be called. I imagine that this is going to progress that, though, along the lines of Seminole County. So it sounds like to me what you're asking are substantive, like what impact substantively does this have on folks trying to negotiate matters that touch on their assets and their liabilities? It is a really, really great question.
Good, you worded it much better than I did. So that's wonderful.
That's because I live it every day. And it's really case by case. It's case by case. It's very case sensitive. There are some people that while they're being furloughed, they still have the same income stream as they did before. There's employers out there like Universal that so far have not cut people's pay. So when you have a W-2 employee that's income stream is remaining the same, obviously you can proceed as normal. I have to consult when there's the matter of the marital home at issue. There are various ways you can arrive or stipulate the two spouses about what fair market value are we going to use. From the professionals I've spoken with, there doesn't seem to be a huge deleterious effect for market values as of yet. In times to come, it probably will slow down. I think the sales of homes will slow down simply because of financing. When people are a purchase, obviously that's a little bit trickier than a cash sale. So I know that was a very roundabout way of answering your
No, I like
question.
that. You actually formed the question better than me. And
I'll tell you what though, one last thing is that how incredibly respectful, even husband, even two people that are at odds and they're looking to restructure their family and not be together anymore. What has so impressed me is the respect I have seen and the spirit of, we're all in this show together, so let's just be professional and be respectful. So I have that has been truly cool for me to see that. It's been uplifting, even for people at odds, they're trying to work together.
The other family question, thank you. The other family question I had, Lorena, people are asking about, hold on, did I mute you? No, you're muted. People are asking about child support.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that being impacted when everybody's waiting for these stimulus checks, or people have been furloughed? Are the courts still just having the same expectation as they had before? This came mainly from women.
So what the courts are asking people to do is be, in essence, kind, right? And understanding of the situation. So if someone was furloughed or let off, then maybe don't file a motion for contempt because it's not willingly avoiding to pay the child support. There's remedies. It is on a case-to-case basis, depending on anybody's particular situation. But yes, you can file motions for temporary relief to where maybe your child support is abated. It's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear. It's just temporary motions. I was on a similar Zoom call this afternoon with Judge Myers and Osceola County judges, where they said that if we cannot have stipulations to go ahead and file motions for child support, and they will hear it on an expedited basis on a visual thing, either Zoom or Microsoft programming, but they are listening to it. They understand the situations, and there's ways around it. I would just say, don't just ignore it. It's not going to go away.
Right.
This is, I think, the time, and I think, Andrea, you'll probably agree with me, the parents could communicate with one another, right? You need to communicate about time sharing. You need to communicate about your financial situation and try to reach some reasonable agreement, at least temporary, without having to involve the courts. But if you can't get there and you're just as hostile as you were when you got divorced, then we're here to help.
It's said, Lorena.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. That's such a cool thing, both of you, to say that people are really trying to figure out the best way to be kind, be nice during in a way, in a place where it's not always like that. Mm-hmm. I have to add, I'm gonna hit Amir and Armando in a minute, but Serge, you are the only non-Florida person here, so tell us what's going on in New York.
Well, everyone's taking it slow. Every transaction that we do takes double the time now, but I feel like it's more of a learning curve for everyone. Everyone's so used to such a personal interaction that we have in terms of real estate. At least for every closing, we have a seller's attorney, buyer's attorney, bank attorney, title closer. So we have 4 or 5 people in the same room for the transaction to take place. Now that everything is going virtual, it's taking time for a lot of law firms and title companies to adjust. But I personally feel that it was a needed step to take it to the next level, because a lot of these issues, for example, like when the deposit is paid, people overnight the checks, they send FedExes back and forth. A lot of the stuff that's non-essential gets eliminated at this point, which is, it's a welcome thing. So even though transactions take a lot longer to close now, or pretty much do anything, it's for the better. So
the transaction's taking a long time. You'd fit right in Florida. Our transactions are known to take a little bit longer than New York. Let me ask you, New York, if I'm not mistaken, that's an attorney state as far as closings go.
Correct. Yeah. Yes.
So what are you seeing? I had a lot of questions about this. What are you seeing about the mobile closing, the RON? I'm not sure if it's called RON everywhere, but are you seeing more acceptance of that becoming a reality? On the lender side, we always like that wet signature on pretty much a lot of things, and we're usually the holdout. What are you seeing in New York?
So a lot of banks are still holding out for the remote closings, but what we're able to do, we're able to consolidate everyone instead of, again, having all these attorneys all together. Normally it's the attorney on the buyer's end that everyone would overnight all the documents to them, even the bank. So the borrower and the attorney would still meet in the same room, sign everything, everything gets notarized, and all the funds get wired out. So it kind of condenses everything, but you would still need to have two people in the room.
Still have to.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Armando, personal injury, right?
Right.
All right, so I had a lot of questions about car accidents. I guess, and I don't know what firms they're working with, but I guess a lot of people are feeling that they're being told that the court system has slowed down those cases, meaning that the people are not getting them resolved or getting the phone calls back from the legal system, so to speak. No, not pointing fingers, but that's the perception out there. It's going to slow it down, and it has slowed it down. What are you seeing?
Well, it's interesting. Most of the personal injury cases don't go into litigation. There's a percentage that do. So for the percentage that are not in litigation, that's pretty much business as usual. I'm finding that the adjusters are working from home. They're accessible, and we're still settling cases. So we're not having any jury trials right now, but we can push cases along through hearings and through cooperating with the other attorney on discovery matters, questions, requests to produce, and things like that. So I don't really see that as a big slowdown right now. Most attorneys are working remotely, but I think the slowdown is going to come as less people are on the roads. So there are less accidents. Right. And so I think we're going to see a slowdown in our business for a while until people get back out on the roads. But as far as settling cases, we're still able to settle the cases. And I think that this little hiatus has been good in a sense that we're able to even do deeper dives and spend a little more time with the clients and with the adjusters. So we're not taking in as many cases, and therefore we're able to even focus more and give the ones that we have more attention.
See, that's good news for these people.
Right.
It's
right.
funny, I think, and Amir, I've got a couple of specific questions for you. I think it's funny because most of the comments and most of the questions I had before we went live, it's that people are concerned that they're not going to be able to get things done as quickly as before, or that it's going to make a complete stop. And I think what you guys are all saying is, for the most part, it's business as usual. It's just you're adapting, you're doing business in a different way as usual, which is good. I think people want to hear that. They're afraid that their probate's not going to go through, or that if they're not going to be able to get their claim paid because the adjuster's not working, or they don't know what to do with the forbearance. There's so many people out there that are just questioning it, and nobody's talking about it. So that's why I appreciate you guys being on here. Amir, I've got to ask, criminal, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm not a criminal. So
I'm not either, I promise.
that I'm aware of, but I know where to go. So on the criminal side, though, we had one or two people ask, on the criminal defense side, what if and I don't think that these are people who have committed these crimes, but what if somebody has committed a crime? What if somebody gets detained, gets arrested? Does that mean that there's going to be longer jail terms for them? They're going to have to sit in remember, this is people's perceptions. They sit in the Barney Fife jail, right? I mean,
right.
So they don't know how it all works. Tell them if that's made an impact and how that works.
It's made an impact in that, as you heard earlier, we don't have any jury trials going on. So to the extent that somebody is being held on a very serious offense, like a life felony, the order that the Supreme Court entered delaying jury trials through the end of April and effectively abating speedy trial is causing some cases to get prolonged. So that's definitely going to impact folks that are charged with very violent, serious offenses. But on a day-to-day basis, the average case where someone's getting arrested for a relatively minor incident, or even something that's a felony but a non-violent felony, they're actually trying to work really diligently to get people in and out of jail so that they're not there and in a scenario where they might be worried about their health and wellness in light of COVID. There are initial appearances going on every day. I'll be appearing on behalf of a client tomorrow morning for someone that got arrested today. Those types of kind of essential hearings are still going forward. And to the extent that somebody's in jail and might be able to get out of jail on either a bond or a possible plea agreement, the courts are encouraging the attorneys, both prosecutors and defense attorneys, to try to coordinate their efforts to push those through so that those folks can hopefully get the justice they need without getting stuck. But it's definitely having an impact on our area of practice a little differently because my typical day is in court pretty much every morning. And all of those pretrial conferences and docket soundings and what have you are all getting rescheduled and pushed. And so there's definitely going to be a delay in the vast majority of the cases that we handle.
See, that's good to know. I think people had this fear. Again, we go back to the fear of the unknown. They don't, if they're involved in anything that has to do with legal, they don't know exactly what to expect. And of course, if you watch the news too much or social media too much, it's all doomsday as far as any category of business. So it's good to hear from the experts. All right, I have to ask you, and I'll start with Justin and kind of work around. In your particular area of practice, or pick one for you, tell me what kind of advice you're giving now. Are you giving different advice to people who are coming to you with questions about foreclosure and bankruptcy, or is it still business as usual?
My advice is really simple. I think it's if you're stuck between, okay, we lost our job. I have to decide if I'm going to feed my family or pay that Chase credit card bill or even pay that mortgage. I think I will always come down on the side of feed your family, because we can fix these financial problems and things like that down the road through bankruptcy or whatever. But I see people who have a $10,000 emergency credit card in the top drawer in their bedroom, and they won't pull it out and use it to feed their family right now. And I say, look, I mean, if there's ever been a time to bust out that emergency credit card, I think that, a worldwide pandemic might be the time.
Exactly. How about you, Lorena?
All right, I just want to make sure I'm muted in case there's a lot of background noise. So the information that I'm giving, or the advice I'm giving my clients, is to the major one is follow court orders. Please just follow the court orders. I know there was a question in here by Ali with regards to time sharing. That's something that's constantly coming to me. Do I continue to follow time sharing agreements or orders, if the other party doesn't want to, or if, I think the other party might be exposed? Unless you have 100% concrete evidence that the other party has been exposed, or maybe, your child has been exposed, you have to continue following court orders. The courts have put out administrative orders that they're saying if you violate those court orders, this is why I tell my clients, they're going to drop the hammer on you. I mean, that's the words I use. Okay. I'm like, I'm not sugarcoating it. They're not playing around. Follow court orders, or you're going to have to stand in front of these judges and explain to them why you think that their orders are not good enough for you. Okay. So they will drop the hammer on those who are violating them. They're talking about making up time, but substantial time. So just not the time that you missed, but they're going to take additional time away from the parent who violated those court orders. You may lose holidays. You may lose summertime with them. So this is not the time to be petty. This is not the time to, use leverage with this virus situation to try to hurt your children. This is the time to work together. So I tell my clients, communicate, talk to one another, keep each other informed of potential exposures. If you're an essential employee, tell the other side, tell the mom or the dad what you're doing to protect yourself, what you're doing to protect the child, so that they have some peace of mind at the end of the day. But work together, continue to try to do your best to co-parent and share the child, because there's so much uncertainty as it is already for these children, with missing school, not seeing their friends, not being able to go and play outside. Above that, some parents want to keep them from their parents too, or the other parent. So my advice to them is everything needs to stay as normal as possible with the situation, unless there is, extreme cases of actual exposure or sickness.
Great advice. All right. How about you, Amir? What are you telling them differently, if anything?
I'm asking them to be patient because we are going to have some delays in processing these cases through. Prosecutors are working either from home remotely or on a very skeletal kind of crew basis. And so we're not getting as much immediate feedback like we normally would as we're kind of navigating through our cases that we're litigating. And then there's folks that are trying to do things like, someone wants to move out of town and maybe they want to terminate a probation early, or they're trying to get some kind of non-emergency type of hearing before the court. I'm letting them know, we're happy to put all the wheels in motion for you, but understand that the likelihood that we're going to get a timely hearing in the typical way that we would is not as good. So I'm asking them just to be patient and understand that, we're having to kind of prioritize where our resources are being used. And right now it's for folks that are getting arrested, folks that are being released from jail, and that these kind of non-essential, non-emergent issues are definitely taking a back burner. So that's really the only significant change in terms of what we're telling our clients.
Patience is good. All right, how about you, Andrea?
I definitely echo Lorena's sentiments. Now is not the time to be petty. Out of respect for our judicial system, out of respect for, the fact that each circuit has their own ways of trying to allow us to communicate to the court via electronic and remote means. We don't want to drag the clerk and witnesses and over something stupid and petty. So what I tell people is, be prepared for me to ask you to make some concessions in this before we go running, to the judge and have to involve all these people remotely. So I think it's made my clients step up their ethics a little bit. I'm kind of like seeing the silver lining in all this, you know what I mean?
I do. I think silver lining is a good word. All right, Serge, how about you?
So right now we're trying to spend a little more time breaking down the contracts to our clients. And what we do is we try to emphasize that this is the time to negotiate right before the contract is signed, because once it's all said and done, they can't come back and renegotiate. And a lot of people looking at the news and everywhere else, they think, okay, it doesn't matter. I signed the document. I need to do this. I'd like to come and try to renegotiate. So we're trying to avoid that. So leading up to it, taking a lot of our time to break it down A through Z, so everyone understands the terms, understand what they need to do. And if there was any time to negotiate or renegotiate, we tell them to do it now before anything is done.
Awesome. All right. How about you, Armando?
Just to piggyback on what Serge and Justin said, it is a good time if you are experiencing credit card debt to call the credit card companies, to be kind and nice to them and see if they'll reduce interest rates or postpone payments. So it is a little bit of a good time to get a hold of some debt if you can. Then in the personal injury world, a lot of clients wonder if they should continue treating, because what hurts a personal injury case are significant gaps in treatments. And I think the jury eventually will understand why someone isn't treating during these times. But you still contact your healthcare provider, and if they're open and you feel comfortable and you can wear a mask, it's still good to continue your medical treatment so you're not in pain while you're at home with your family. And if you do have a case, go ahead and contact an attorney, because you don't want to delay the process. So a lot of attorneys are working either remotely or from home, but through Zoom or Facebook, or there's different ways in order to communicate with the client. Sign them up remotely with DocuSign and then proceed with the case. So it's almost business like usual in my world.
All right, so I have one last question to wrap it up, and I'm going to say this, and I know you guys are going to hopefully laugh. It's good to humanize attorneys. I feel like people are intimidated by the legal system and attorneys in general, and I know all of you, and you are just really good human beings, but maybe they don't. So I'm going to start with Armando, and I want to ask, what are you personally doing, not professionally, nothing to do with business? What are you doing to stay focused and stay positive and stay creative?
What's helped me the most, because there hasn't been much structure in my life, and I have young kids at home, a 3- and a 5-year-old. So I'm still exercising. And so I have a trainer that's a girl friend of mine, and he comes over. My wife and I will work out on the front porch. And we do that at least 4 times a week. And it has a way of really clearing my mind and enjoying. And I'll still come to the office, but now it's a more leisurely pace. So I'm really enjoying this time to connect with my wife a little bit and with the kids, because you know how quickly they grow up. Before you know it, they're out of the house.
Absolutely. How about you, Andrea?
I'll tell you in about a week. I have had one calamity after the other. It seems like pretty much since we've been in quarantine. I had pink eyes, not COVID-19, thank God. So that knocked me out for a couple of weeks. And I, was glad to be quarantined. I didn't want anyone to see me. And just a very freak thing happened a week ago, Monday. My neighbor has a pit bull, and the pit bull attacked me. Was trying to get to my dog, and eat my dog, and ended up jumping me. And I'm a hot mess. You can't tell, you can't see my leg, but my right leg is a mess. But what I plan to do, yeah, thank you.
Armando can help. No, I'm joking.
We've got homeowners.
Not a bad, I thought of that, but it is my neighbor, and we're making each other, promise some things, or I'm making them promise some things. But anyway, I had just gotten in the groove between the pink eyes and the dog bite. I've taken a walk in the morning and making a smoothie, and I'm fortunate enough to live on a lake, just going outside and sitting on the dock at lunchtime and having my lunch in the sunshine. So hopefully in about a week, I'll be able to resume those, more healthy activities.
Love it.
Right now, I'm just a mess.
How about you, Serge?
Well, I get to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner compared to just running on coffee all day. But besides that, I get to spend some time with my family again. So that's a blessing.
It's important. How about you, Justin?
I still have to go to the radio station every day and do 2 hours on the Florida Man Radio Network. Then I go to the office for a few hours, typically, even though the rest of my staff's working from home. And other than that, Ted, getting fat mostly because like Armando, I play basketball all the time, and there's nowhere to play basketball, as you know. So it's hard for me to transition to go running around the block. I'm not good at that. I'm getting good at barbecuing on the weekends. Other than that, that's about it.
Amir, how about you?
Rekindling my passion for cooking. I'm at home with my daughter, and so getting to have meals with her pretty much 2 to 3 times a day has been a lot of fun. I'm working informally on my sommelier degree. As much wine as I can after work hours, which is kind of fun. And unfortunately, I haven't had any cardio on the patio, so I'm going to try to Armando's lead and see what I can do to not, gain the freshman 15 after this is all said and definitely enjoying some quality time with my kid and trying to figure this out. I'm not used to working from home, so this is definitely an interesting mental gymnastics, trying to focus on what you need to focus on. And but I'm having fun with it. I'm really enjoying it. And so it is we'll figure it out.
All right. Last but not least, Lorena.
So I've become a middle school teacher also, because now I have to homeschool my 12-year-old twin. So that's been interesting because God knows I didn't learn math that way. So I'm having to Google things and try to figure it out. Now that we're entering week 3, they're finally getting the grasp of how to do it on their own. So I'm able to focus more on my work. But I'll second Armando. I'm a huge Peloton fan. For those who know me and who follow me on Facebook, I'm a Peloton freak. So I'm on that bike at least 6 times a week. So I try to focus on that. Yeah, no, I love it. And it has so much things. I'm learning to meditate, which is also good because I'm sure all of you guys will agree that we can't shut off our minds and our cases run through our heads even while we're trying to relax. So I'm trying to learn to meditate and shut this off for a little bit. It's not working yet, but I'm working on it. And then it's been good to spend some quality time with my husband. Ted knows my husband, Gil, and we've also been cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which is amazing. And we're sticking to our keto, which is also fun. So being super creative with our recipes, thanks to Pinterest. And that's pretty much it. Just spending quality time at home and
quality time.
Understanding our new normal for right now.
Well, I appreciate all of you being on the show. Armando, Andrea, Serge, Justin, Amir, and Lorena. You guys were amazing. I tagged all of you, and I'll continue to tag you so that if people want to reach out to you as far as your area of practice, that they can do that. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank
It's
you.
good to
I
see you.
appreciate all of you.
Appreciate it.
Mwah. Thank you.
Everybody take care.
To meet all you.
Stay
You too,
safe,
thank
stay
you.
healthy. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Amir.
Bye.